Today we're going to talk about what I consider probably the most important thing to have in your first aid kit or in your natural remedies that you may use. This is something that is backed by peer-reviewed literature. It has been used for centuries, actually for millennia, at least back to the Romans and much before that. But we're going to look at the research. Don't take my word for it, but let's check it out. Hey everybody, Chad Cruiser here with Health and Homestead. Now we're going to talk about some super practical things, how it might help with a stomach ache and aches and pains and bruises potentially. But I want to start with something that may not be very practical to you, but it's good to know about, and that is how it can deal with brown recluse spider bites. Now the brown recluse spider, it has a toxic venom. In fact, it's actually stronger than the venom of a rattlesnake. As it bites, it pierces the skin and inserts its venom into the body. And strangely enough, you may not even know you're bit because initially there's no pain. But then the flesh can begin to die, becoming necrotic. And as it does, that flesh that is rotting begins to spread. And this can destroy flesh. It can cause all kinds of trouble. But this simple remedy that we're talking about, being activated charcoal, being applied in what is called a poultice, can actually be incredible. Here's a case report of a man who was bit by a brown recluse spider and was presented in the journal Drug Metabolism Reviews. He was bitten on his foot, but would not take any drug medication. Instead, he was treated with activated charcoal poultices. We'll talk about what that is in a moment. And they also would put his foot in ice cold water to lower the swelling. Now, this is actually what happened. This is the chart that shows you what happened. Now, the signs of inflammation, the first day as he was bit, there was serious inflammation. Same thing day 3, 6, 7. But by day 10, it was already healing. No inflammation at that point and onward from that point. Now, we're going to compare this to what may happen in others in just a moment. And the diameter of the lesion in inches started off day 1 at 3 inches, same thing at day 3. Then at day 6, it was down to 2.5, same thing at 7. But already by day 10, it was beginning to decrease even more to 2. Then by 2 weeks in, it was 1.5 inches. And by day 30, it was gone. And was he able to walk the first day? No, he was not. It was too painful. But already by day 3, he was beginning to walk on that foot that had been bit by a brown recluse spider bite. This is incredible. After putting this charcoal poultice on it, but by day 3 limited, and then it was limited up until day 7, and by day 10 he was able to walk. Now, what's incredible is it seems like the guy wanted to run. He was in his 40s, and he wasn't able to run day 1 and up to day 7, but by day 10 the guy could actually run a bit, and by day 14 it looks like he could just fully run by that point. Now you say, okay, well, sounds good, but I have no idea what would normally happen in someone. As we said, typically what happens when this bite takes place, the flesh becomes necrotic and it starts to spread. It can cause tremendous damage to the point where someone may have to have serious skin grafting done to heal this wound. They may take things like antibiotics, and there's various procedures that they may use, and this may go on for a long period of time and may cause long-term scarring. I've read that 100 years ago, actually more than 100 years ago, people would use it for spider bites, but now we actually have evidence, at least, okay, it's a case report at this point, but we at least have this beginning evidence that it looks like it is very efficacious. And hey, if you're in a situation where you can't get to the hospital, you can't get to the doctor, you can't get anywhere, this could be a potential remedy. And anyway, it actually may work much better than anything that will take place in the hospital, but it's something to give a try. Contact your doctor if you're bit and go for it from there. Little side note, just in case you don't know if a spider is a brown recluse, there's a real simple way. Look at this picture. On the back of this spider, actually toward the head, you notice something that looks like a perfectly shaped violin. They're actually called fiddleback. That is how you know if it is a brown recluse spider. But let's go on to the next thing that it may help. You say, okay, Chad, but I don't struggle with spider bites all the time, but I'll bet from time to time you or somebody you know struggles with diarrhea. So what does it do for diarrhea? Here's research reported in the journal Current Medical Research and Opinion, reported on the impact of activated charcoal to adsorb toxins, often preventing them from causing severe side effects. And this is actually the first thing I ever used it for, probably close to 20 years ago. I was over in California and I was in a friend's house and I ended up coming down with a stomachache. And he said, hey man, you got to try some charcoal. Now I didn't know, I thought that was the stuff that you cooked over a grill. Don't use the grill charcoal. That stuff is not what you use. This is actually activated charcoal. I'll probably do a video later on how to, you can make it yourself, but you can buy it online. I'll have a link to that down below. But so he said, you got to try some charcoal for your stomachache. So what he did is you can take like a couple heaping tablespoons full into a glass and maybe 8 or 12 ounce glass of water, stir it up. Be careful though, because it can kind of poof out because it's very dusty, but stir it and don't get it on your clothes because it stains, and you stir it up and it becomes like the blackest, darkest smoothie you could ever possibly imagine. He said, drink this. I drank that thing down and I am not exaggerating, within seconds, within a minute, I had no pain in my stomach. And it can be incredibly useful if you've had food poisoning. I have a friend who accidentally ate one of the most toxic plants on planet Earth, which is called hemlock. If you haven't seen my video on water hemlock, I'll share a link at the end of this. But he and his daughter, they were picking wild carrot, and his daughter must have accidentally, evidently, picked some hemlock, poison hemlock, which can look like wild carrot, almost identical, unless you know how to distinguish them, and I kind of talk about that in the video. But he ended up eating it and she ate it also, and they then realized, they started to notice the effects. There's different ways that some people experience it. It can begin to burn in the mouth, they have upset stomach. Well, he knew about activated charcoal. He took the activated charcoal, he and his daughter, but they also did go to the hospital, and I would suggest that you do that in those kind of situations as far as go to the hospital. But they took the charcoal, and the doctor told them that the other patients that had come in eating hemlock didn't make it. And yet he and his daughter, because of their knowledge of this particular thing, and they use this in the hospital anyway. This is something that is used in hospital for toxicity, for poisoning, where they will actually put the charcoal into the people, and this can adsorb the toxins. And my friend's life and his daughter, they were both spared. And now, you may notice that I'm using the word adsorb rather than absorb. Now, absorption is basically like when you're in your kitchen and you have a sponge and you squeeze it and then you put it in water and it sucks water right up into it. Now, there's something called adsorption with a D, and adsorption, instead of sucking things into it, what it does is it sucks them to the side of it and it sticks to them. So molecules and various things like toxins can actually stick to it. And instead of allowing that toxin to go into your bloodstream or go into your body and wreak havoc, it can actually end up instead just passing it through into your stool and kind of neutralizing the problem. So that's evidently how it actually works, is through adsorption. Research has also shown that it can be beneficial for gas, for people who have bloating or gas. Now, I wouldn't use it all the time. If you have gas all the time, figure out what's causing your gas. Maybe learn to chew your food more. There's other things you can do to help that. But one of the things that you can potentially do is using activated charcoal. Here's an incredible study on activated charcoal and wound care. In a study reported in the Journal of Wound Care, researchers tested a charcoal and silver dressing versus simply cleaning the wound and debridement, removing dead tissue or skin that is infected. At the conclusion of the 2 weeks, 85.1% of the people who used the charcoal silver dressing had a decrease of bacteria in their wounds versus 62.1% of those who had the cleaning and debridement. This is something that has been used for probably millennia, putting it on sores, putting it on cuts, on wounds, and this is something that can take out, actually pull out the toxins from it. I don't know if it will end up staining the skin as a result of it, because it can stain clothes, but be careful where you put it in. But it is something to consider. If you have a wound that won't heal, this is something that can make an incredible impact. We had a doctor in India, actually. He ended up having a patient who had something like flesh-eating bacteria, something that would not heal. They tried every single thing they could do medically to treat it, and nothing was working. Antibiotics weren't working, nothing was working. And so what they ended up doing, he thought, well, I have no other option. I don't know where to go. And so they tried activated charcoal on this, and he said, and it fully stopped the disease. It actually helped this person to heal. So in difficult circumstances, if you are out on your own, you're out in the forest, you don't have any other options, or you can't make it to the hospital, this is something to try on wounds and various issues. I want to share with you how to use activated charcoal if you're suffering, maybe you've had some food poisoning or something like that. Now, the Mayo Clinic suggests to take 25 to 100 grams of it mixed with water and you drink it. And I'll just show you what I've done for years. I don't know how many grams this is, but what I do is I take a couple heaping teaspoons, and you can notice it is just as black as night. We'll just put a couple of heaping teaspoons in the bottom of the glass. Then, I mean, normally you just use the faucet, but then we take the spoon and stir it, and this is where you got to be careful because it can puff out, and as it puffs out, it can get on your clothes, and it, like I said, it can stain. Once you got it stirred up, this is the darkest, blackest smoothie you've ever had, but it doesn't have a bad taste. Probably have a black mustache right now, and it makes your teeth black. Make sure, the good thing is you immediately have, your breath is clean. I mean, you have nice breath right after you use it. It's amazing. It adsorbs to all the things in your tongue and in your mouth. And now, if you have a stomachache, like I said, I've had it in the past where within a minute, boom, the stomachache is gone. Other times it takes a little more, and if you have really bad food poisoning, sometimes you'll still throw up, and then I'd use it again, and it just is going to get more of those toxins in there. So that's one way that you can use it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually show you how to make a poultice to apply to something like a bug bite or to spider bite, these kind of things. So what you simply do is you take equal parts activated charcoal with equal parts, you don't have to use this, but you can use some flax seeds ground up. And the only reason you use the flax seeds is because what it does, it makes it easier to work with instead of just being kind of a, you know, chunk of wet charcoal, which you can absolutely do. It works phenomenal. You don't have to use this, but this just makes it easier to work with. And so we'll mix this together. And one of the keys is, as you're going to notice, it gets on your skin, and do your best not to get it on your clothes. Take your flaxseed ground up if you're going to use it, and with that, so they're equal parts. This is, we had 2 ounces of flaxseed, 2 ounces of charcoal powder, and then 4 ounces of water. So double the amount of water, and this is hot water. And then after that, you want to be careful as you stir it because the charcoal can kind of poof and get on you. And you notice that it becomes kind of a nice gelatinous goo. And that's because of the flaxseed ground up. It makes it nice and workable. Once you have the mixture ready, you can take something like paper towel or a handkerchief that you don't mind destroying, and you apply it directly to the paper towel. Spread it out a little bit. And then you can take it on, let's imagine I had a bite right in this area. I don't really have anything to put it on right now, but you could simply apply it and be careful so it doesn't get everywhere, but you can put it right on the skin. And then after that, you need to take some saran wrap, and you wrap the saran wrap all around it, and then tape it just to keep it from, you know, if you're going to sleep with it overnight. And then if you're going to be sleeping with it, you're going to want to put something here to make sure that it doesn't come out, because if this gets all over your bed, you're going to end up having a real mess on your hands, and it will not wash out. If you have something serious like a brown recluse spider bite, you're probably going to want to replace this every hour, especially to begin with, because it's going to adsorb as much of that toxin as possible. At night, if you have to, you can just sleep with it, no problem. I mean, you can do this for days, day after day after day, just like they did in that particular case report with the brown recluse. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. But the more you replace it, especially in the beginning, the greater the impact it's going to have at adsorbing those toxins. Also, I was reading, now this was a story over 100 years ago, of this man who had damaged his hand somehow. He had smashed his hand, it was bruised, terrible, and he was a laboring man, and back then it wasn't like you had a system that could pay you not to work. Back then there was nothing you could do. Like, if you didn't work, you didn't make any money, and if you didn't make any money, you didn't have any food many times. And so what this man was told, he was told to go actually to the blacksmith and get some of the burned charcoal, take that over, and they made a poultice, and they put that around the area of his hand that was inflamed, that had the bruising, and he thought he was going to be off work for days. By the very next day, he was able to go out and work. And so, something to try. By the way, this is actually used in water filtration, and you could make an actual water filter. I'm going to try to make a video on that in the future, how in a pinch you could make your own water filter using activated charcoal. And this is something that is used in filters anyway to help get rid of things like fluoride. Now you might be asking, sounds great, but are there any side effects? Well, there may be some. It turns out that there are a few side effects for activated charcoal. Taking it continually is probably not wise, as it could potentially bind to good vitamins or minerals in your food. Additionally, some may experience constipation if you use it in high doses. So if you struggle with that, be careful. And if taking any medication, consult with your doctor. It may hamper the effects of the medication. It may end up adsorbing them and taking those out of the body and not working. Now I want to let you know, my wife and I, we travel much of the year, and we don't go anywhere without activated charcoal. It's something super, super important. It's been honestly the #1 remedy in our lives, and we know tons of people who use it. We share it with people. They may be skeptical at the beginning. They try it, and then they don't want to live without this stuff. And so I'm going to have a link down below if you want to be able to get some of it, and you can also make it, and I'm going to try to make a video on that coming up in the future. Now, if you haven't seen my video on the most deadly plant, check this one out here, but also this one right here is super important. If you haven't seen this powerful natural remedy and the effects of comfrey and how to make it, and then I also have a video on the scientific literature behind it, you're gonna wanna check this one out in our other video also. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications. God bless and have a fantastic day.